Hi there, La Jolla UMC family. Last week in our weekly update video, I told you a little bit about the structure of leadership here at La Jolla UMC. And one of the things that I said is that there is a larger sense of structure in our denomination. We're all Methodists, and one of the ways that we understand our nickname as Methodists is we're somewhat methodical in the ways that we do things. The other reason that this is timely is because both of your pastors and 3 of your church members will be participating in a conference next week on the sort of larger scale of part of this denomination. So let's talk about what part of that looks like. We, as you know, are part of La Jolla United Methodist Church, an official chartered church within the United Methodist Church. Now, there are structures that go beyond. In some informal ways, our congregation meets with, our pastors meet with a few other regional churches. Our congregation gathers, of course, from time to time with our sister church over in Pacific Beach. You may remember that one church will host Ash Wednesday and the other Maundy Thursday. And we do things like that in collaboration. And they're, again, just an informal relationship with a neighboring church. We might do that with other churches from time to time if that feels right for us. We don't have to. But there is a district, what's called the South District, that is a recognized body within our region. And the South District is headed by our district superintendent, the Reverend Sandy Olwine. The South District is all the churches from roughly South Orange County all the way down south here in the state of California. Now, there are 5 districts in the next largest regional body, which is known as the annual conference. Don't let that word annual fool you. It has to do with how often this group meets. But the conference, the California Pacific Annual Conference, is most of Southern California, plus the entire state of Hawaii, plus some sort of charter churches in Hawaii. We already talked about Hawaii. In Guam and Saipan. There's not really a lot of churches in Guam and Saipan. So most of our churches are Southern California and Hawaii, but it's important not to leave out our Guam and Saipan friends. Now, the annual conference falls within something that's called a jurisdiction, and the Western jurisdiction is basically the western third of the United States. So here in the California Pacific Annual Conference, we're the furthest sort of southwest, but there's the Desert Southwest Annual Conference, there's the California Nevada Annual Conference, there's the Oregon Idaho Annual Conference. There's the Pacific Northwest Annual Conference, which includes a provisional, annual conference in Alaska, but really they connect with Pacific Northwest. And this is all, again, the western third. The Rocky Mountain, I think it's the Rocky Mountain Annual Conference. It's Montana, Colorado, some of that region. I'll look that up and probably put something funny on the screen there. So the western third of the United States is the Western jurisdiction. A primary function of jurisdictions, according to our United Methodist Constitution, is the election of bishops. There are several jurisdictions across the United States. And then beyond jurisdictions, there is the global church, the global United Methodist Church. Now, it's interesting that it is mostly churches in the United States that fall into these categories that I have named that have, annual conferences and jurisdictions, but there is something a little bit different called central conferences. And there are central conferences on the continent of Africa, and there are central conferences in the Asian continent. There are several central conferences around the European continent. And they interact with the global church a little bit differently. They interrelate with the Book of Discipline a little bit differently. Those are lots of details that are a bit too much to get into in this video. But I wanted to, again, give you an idea of the structure. Remembering that we're Methodist, remembering that we're methodical, that we as a local church are part of the South District, which is part of the California Pacific Annual Conference, which is part of the Western jurisdiction, which is a part of the global United Methodist Church. Indeed, friends, we are a connected church. We are connected with churches all around the world, and in that connection, we can do incredible things together, guided by God's call, saved by Jesus the Christ, and empowered by the Holy Spirit. If you have questions about any of these things, please let me know. I love geeking out on this stuff. Grace and peace to you, my friends.